we'll talk about the service analytics CRUD APIs that we have implemented, and that application interactions are driven at the API layer. When they're done that way, they're a little faster, more durable, and easier to manage at scale than compared to the UI interactions that we do and model them from the UI, say when we are talking about thousands and more than thousands of services, of course. And then the programmatic access to these services interfaces when user programmatically wants to access this CRUD features and data. So that is what these APIs provides them for. So certain examples could be a domain-specific tool to drive the service creation and definition based upon the domain and the context and the visibility. So that, those are kind of if there are, say, more than 1,000 services, it's very difficult to do it over a UI, and it's more automated, it's more efficient. And then also allow the user to leverage the unified monitoring advantage of OI and drive the monitoring through the UI, the Terraform style, and you can model them to scale as well without having any admin manually going and doing it. So these APIs have been documented here. So this link I'll share, and this talks about all the APIs that we have exposed as public APIs. So let's quickly talk about what is new. So as such, the creation of APIs, the creation of services has already been adopted by a lot of our customers, and they create the services using our APIs. But what is new this time around? So we have a new API, which is Service Analytics Store, which takes an input of a set of vertices and edges, and we are limiting them 1,000 at a time. And the idea is that we should be able to save any vertex and then any edges. We don't really have to delve into what is the entire hierarchy and post the entire thing into one payload and so on and so forth. So user can incrementally first ingest all the vertices, and there subsequently they could choose to ingest the associations or the edges between them. And we recommend the use of the Store API because this not only frees the user of maintaining the entire hierarchy into one, where we have seen there could be potentially 2,000 or plus services in one hierarchy. It also safeguards our system when we do 1,000 services at our time. Along with that, we have also added an auto wait parameter. So what it does is whatever edge semantic or the weight we define to the edge, if we say auto weight true, it really goes ahead and cancels all of that and evenly distributes all the associations. So, a user can either choose to have auto weight true, or they can rely on whatever custom weight they want to and simply don't set auto weight or set it to false. So that way there is a flexibility of with the Store API, we can also give weightage to the associations. And if we want to auto weight them, we can do that as well. This also helps in the auto weight also helps in a new API that we have introduced this time around, which is delete edges. This typically takes care of if we want to disassociate any two services or remove association between them, we can use the delete edges API. And when we say delete edges and auto weight, it can automatically weigh down and it provide equal weights to the remaining associations within the hierarchy. So these are pertaining to the Store and the delete. These are the new APIs that we have introduced this time around. Also, we have introduced an all services API, which gives us a paginated list of services, and we can provide page number and page size, and at a time we can give 1,000 services. So if at all, suppose you want to query all the services, we can use this API, and this gives a finer footprint of the service. So we will not give a whole lot of details of what the services are. Pretty much what is the service name, what is the service ID, and some basic details around it, not the whole lot of the content. So this is pretty much kind of bookkeeping, what has already been done. If you want to query all services, this can be used. We have also removed the root service, so attribute. So we don't save it anymore. However, if at all we require what is the root service of a particular service, we actually go back and compute the edges and find the root service. So even though we do not save it anymore, we actually go ahead and traverse. So in past, we have seen that this attribute has not been updated when the hierarchies are changed and so on and so forth. So to get rid of that, we have removed root service and we dynamically calculate based on the edges now. So we have now provided these APIs via a public API interface, and we use both tenant and gateway endpoints. I'll explain what is that. And then we can use tenant token for some of the APIs, but how RBAC falls up into this place, I'll show you all in a moment in my next slide probably, where I'll touch point both public APIs and the RBAC impact. The other thing is that Swagger is not available right now, but it is coming soon. So we're working towards getting it so that we no longer have to demo with the Postman. We can directly go ahead in the Swagger, try out the variables and see how the outcomes are. Okay, so having said that, I'll quickly show you. So there are two endpoints which we have exposed these APIs with. The first one is the admin UI endpoint, and the other one is the APM services gateway endpoint. Now let's see how we can get them. So this is my system. If I go onto the Launchpad, I go to settings and connect to parameters. So this is my gateway endpoint, and this is my gateway endpoint, whatever we take as endpoint. APM services gateway, APM. So this is currently stage environment. Each environment will have these connector parameters, and if we go at see the TAS endpoint, we can really get the APM gateway endpoint, APM services gateway endpoint. And the admin UI endpoint is the query API endpoint, which is TOI admin UI route. So whenever we actually, I'll show you what really that means is the admin UI endpoint is whenever I go and execute any API here, this is the DOI admin endpoint. So all the UI makes the calls to this. And for the service analytics CRUD, we have actually exposed them via the admin UI endpoint here and the gateway endpoint, as I said. Now we have two flavors using the user token and the tenant token. And introduction of RBAC actually restricts the tenant token to be used with the right APIs. So if at all we have to use it at the APM services gateway endpoint, we will have to use the user token for the right APIs. Otherwise, we can just simply go ahead and admin UI endpoints, everything is available with the user token. Now, how do we get those two tokens, the admin UI token and the API gateway token? So here is the documentation, and the documentation has links to it as well. So the authentication and authorization of APIs. So if we follow this and go to the ESS security v1 token, this is how we get the user token. And so this process is mentioned here, and the security token or the tenant token, we can go ahead and generate it like this here, mentioned on this wiki. The easier way would be quickly, I can show you the in the APM, if we really go and select settings and we go ahead and do security. And here we do generate token and we say generate a tenant token. And that is how we can generate the tenant token from here. Right, so that is that. And So these are the list of APIs that are available right now. So for create and updating services, we have save and store APIs. The save is already the existing one, only that it is available with the OI public route as well. And then there are GET APIs. These GET APIs are all accessible through both gateway endpoint as well as the admin UI endpoint and through both the tokens, the user as well as the tenant. For the update APIs, we can do save and store on the admin UI route and then use a token, and then also update, which we can use to basically update the attributes of a service. So I'll show you what is the payload, and even the documentation have all the details of what the payload is and how do we execute them. Then we have the delete edges API and the services status API, which sets the status to deleted here. So these are the list of APIs that are available on the OI public route and the endpoint. And we'll quickly see how these work. I'll quickly go ahead on the OI and let's talk with so this is the gateway URL and all services API, and it's a GET API. We can give page number and page size. So this lists out all the name, status, root service. So this is a calculated root service. We don't save the root services anymore. And what is the external ID or the ID of this service? So this way we can this is the minimalistic thing that we, return for any service here. Similarly, there are APIs to fetch service analytics service, and then if we want to execute this API, and yes, I am executing these with the tenant token. Typically, tenant token are larger than the user token. So this tenant token I generated from the APM interface specifically for the tenant. And then this gives me, for this service, AWS setup functions. This is the vertices, and so whatever are the service details that, so if I want to get the service vertex in details, I would use this API. And then we have the service hierarchy API. So if I want to get the entire hierarchy of service C1, I will execute this API. It's also a get kind of an API. So this gives me the vertex C1, gives me the parent vertex P1, and gives me the vertex C2 as well, which is lying with the parent. So it gives me the entire hierarchy for the C1 service. And these are the attributes that are returned. And also it gives me the associations, how they are associated. So the source ID and the external IDs and so on and so forth. Then there is an API which actually we can get the hierarchy of, say, service S1, service P1. I want to know what are all the children for this service. So if I execute this API, so it gives me P1 itself and the two children of the service P1. Similarly, I can, with the same service hierarchy, I can get the, for these two services, if I want to get the parents. So if I execute them for the service BRT, I get the parents like this here, and for the token service, I get the parents. So that is how we really get the hierarchy based, whether it's parent hierarchy or whether we want to get the children hierarchy. Then, so similarly with the user tokens also, we can do these read APIs. So yeah, so if you see the user token is relatively the smaller one, we should be able to query, okay, so this has got expired. What I do, the easier way of getting for the demo, this will be like this. I'll quickly go ahead and grab the user bearer token right here and use it. Okay, so with the user token as well, we can get this. The next set of APIs is the store API. So we look at we give the vertices. So for the service A1, A2, and then service A3, this is the service content. We give a bunch of other attributes and tags, and then the association between them. I'm saying health and weight 0 here. However, I say auto weight true. And when I execute this API, okay, so it was the user token. It got expired. Let me quickly update the user token. So we give all the messages here as to the services got successfully created and the number of edges that got created. If there were any discrepancies. So for example, if we gave an edge which did not have the vertex created, right? For example, if I gave, there is no vertex A11, and if I gave to create any edge with A11, it would give me an error that the service does not exist. So if I execute that, so it says this edge failed, right? Services for the failed edge not found, basically. So it will give all the details of as to why this failure happened in the failed edges and all the necessary messages that it went through fine or not. Then there is a variable or the parameter replace, which actually, if the services is already existing, it will replace it. We can choose to make it false so that it doesn't replace the existing service. So this store API, basically, you can choose to give only vertices, or so I can only give only vertices and the edges could be blank. I can execute it this way. Or I can also do the other thing is give only edges and my vertices would be blank. So idea of using this API would be we go ahead and create all the vertices and subsequently create the edges. We can mix and match as well. We can give vertices and edges together. The only criteria is the sum of the total of the entities should be 1,000. If it is more than 1,000, we really limit it and we don't go ahead and save that payload. So thing to keep in mind is 1,000 entities at a time. And let's quickly go ahead and check our service that we created. I think that is the last thing that I really wanted to show, that this we gave auto weight, and then we got this auto weight here, even though in the payload, if you want to say, we gave 0 as the risk and health weight. And one last thing would like to show on the edges, delete edges, we can choose to just remove this list of associations. So we can remove those edges, we can give a set of edges that we want to delete, and then it would delete it for us. And okay, the header. Yeah, so basically if the edge doesn't exist, it will give you appropriate message that the edge is not there. And the update, status, and save are pretty much the same that we had, only that they are available from the OI public endpoint. So this documentation has the details on how each of the API is executing, and in detail what is the sample payload and for each of them, and if there is any specific note regarding the parameters are all listed out in the documentation right here.